Okay, so we are here with Noel Deyzel. Now, pronouncing your name, by the way, so it's Noel Deyzel, not Deyzel. Is that correct?
So I've heard a few variations of this. It's actually Noel Deyzel, but
Deyzel. Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
it by birth or by pronunciation of my name, it's actually Noel, but very few people actually get that correct. So it's just
Oh
become
yeah,
Noel Deyzel. But yeah, Deyzel, whatever works.
yeah.
People,
So we have Noel Deyzel. Is that
perfect.
okay? And
That is him.
yeah, that's been ambiguous for a while. A lot of people have been trying to figure that out. So glad to have some clarification. So really
You're the first to
happy.
actually ask. You're the first to actually ask the correct pronunciation. So.
Oh, right on.
Let them get a first from your channel, dude.
Perfect. So obviously, I think you might be the fastest growing fitness related channel on the entire internet right now. And it's been like that for a minute at this point. And obviously, congratulations first off on that huge accomplishment. And obviously, you've been putting in incredible amounts of work, and your adherence to high quality and consistency is like unmatched, honestly. And it's something I look to myself for a source of I don't know, inspiration and a different type of model I could be trying to make like different kinds of videos out of. Like as far as um getting into all that to begin with, like obviously this stems back from your passion for bodybuilding and training and whatnot. And um one of your first videos, I think, I'm not sure if it was one of the first ones that went viral or not. They kind of all go viral at this point, but like when you first started training, was this you were sort of like a late bloomer, right? Like as far as when you were training, it was like mid 20s or something.
Yeah, probably about 23, 24. I first got into training. Actually, there was a few attempts, nothing serious. I just say a few attempts, and I went to the gym with a friend. He pushed me really hard. It was my first time going to the gym, and I was so stiff the next day. I couldn't. I was actually still in high school at the point. I couldn't turn my head to address the teacher. I actually had to turn my entire body. So
Yeah.
that was a bit of a deterrent for a little while. But I was more into track and field, when I was in school, and then later I got into baseball and actually skateboarding for the later part of my teenagehood.
Oh wow. Do you still skate at all?
No, a little bit heavy for that. I gave that up as a bad idea. I actually
Yeah.
had some plates. I had some surgery on my forearm after quite a serious incident, which didn't stop me at the time, but it just instilled a little bit of fear, and so that kind of got me off of skateboarding.
Hmm. Yeah, the I find it's almost unfortunate though with bodybuilding is you start to think about the ROI of all activities where you're like, I like skateboarding, I like snowboarding, but if I get injured, this could be like a huge hindrance to my like how I generate income now as well. So I
Yeah.
see a lot of people start to like stray away from some of the hobbies they do that they used to do. But I imagine it's trying to do a kickflip at 280 pounds isn't the same as it was at 150.
It's a lot more impactful. You hit the ground a lot harder. So,
Yeah, yeah.
but but I'm glad you mentioned because with the start of with the initial start of the climb on TikTok last year December, because we started at around August September, putting out the initial videos, and saw some rapid growth. Gained up to around 400,000 followers in the first couple of weeks. So by December, it was about 400, 450, if I'm not mistaken. Got verified at the time, and I actually suffered an injury doing some water sports.
Oh,
Um, and that was, I mean, that was a major turning point in terms of realization that if I have any sort of intention of pursuing this as a career, I'm going to have to put a lot of these side hobbies and sports outside of bodybuilding at rest. So I've kind of sold the bike, given away a couple of goods just to kind of make sure that I avoid any sort of injuries.
Oh yeah. But you when you first started, you were like, it's kind of interesting because you're seen as the like you're one of the probably the biggest overall like sheer size physique as far as like popular influencers goes too. Like you're sort of like this hybrid of actual bodybuilder meets fitness industry slash like scalable social media because most bodybuilders that are IFBB heavyweight bodybuilders are not doing the kind of integrated entertaining style content that you are too. And you called yourself, like when you first started, you were not traditionally like I don't know if you know those traditional body types like mesomorph or like endomorph and ectomorph. Like you were like a traditional ectomorph right when you started. It seemed like I was actually pretty shocked to see your baseline before you started this whole journey back when you were 23, 24. You were only like 68 kilograms, 150 pounds at how tall are you?
188, which is about 6'2".
Okay, so pretty tall. So you have a lot of frame to fill out, especially on stage, I can imagine. And
Yeah.
you got as heavy as was 300 your peak when you had like the worst sleep apnea, or what was your like peak weight?
My peak weight was actually December 2019, where I was weighing about 136 kilos.
Okay, so I think that's pretty close to 300 pounds.
Or probably it's close to about 300 pounds.
Yeah. And now presumably you hover around something a bit lower than that, like a bit leaner of a body composition.
Yeah, so at this point, I'm going through a body recomping, cycle stage, and I would say my weight kind of fluctuates from about 120 to 125 kilos
Okay.
consistently within that range. Yeah. I was prepping. Well, I'm prepping for a show in December.
Yeah.
Whether or not that's going ahead depends on my travel plans for the rest of the year. I'm hoping to get to the States, around November, December. So if that does all materialize, then I won't be doing the show, but am kind of just proceeding with things as per or with the intent of doing the show in December.
Okay. And that show is which one? Just out of
So
curiosity.
yeah, so it's a local NPC qualifier. Obviously my 12 months had lapsed, so I have to do another qualifier, and there's a pro show happening the very following day, which is the 4th. So it's the 3rd and the 4th of December.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
The like that kind of like trajectory of like making it into the IFBB and kind of like transitioning through the ranks from South Africa, is that like a lot more problematic? Like there are less shows to actually like make that happen from where you're from, or is it like a pretty good culture with a lot of opportunities up there? Or like how does traditionally like how would somebody traverse the ranks coming from there?
Yeah, I would say it's a bit more of a challenge or a struggle being in South Africa. There aren't as many shows. The community is quite small,
Okay.
and so it's quite difficult to rack up the necessary points in order to do the qualifiers, in order to get to amateur and obviously Olympia level. So and it's very expensive as well, because a lot of travel which is required too. So outside of the general costs of prepping, we have to travel overseas, and so that can obviously get quite costly too.
Do you have aspirations to make it to like the highest level, or is it just kind of seeing you beating your own previous best and seeing how far you can take it, sort of thing?
It's always been for the last couple of years, it's been my biggest goal. One of my biggest goals and aspirations to compete in the Olympia one day. Right now I try and maintain a physique to inspire and motivate, others. So I feel like, it puts a lot of pressure on me to keep myself in the best shape as possible, but to be the best example to my audience. So I feel my intentions has shifted for less of a self-vision for myself, but doing it more for my audience.
Right. Yeah. Obviously, it keeps you more in check body
Yeah.
composition wise, knowing that you're going to be putting out videos every every couple of days at this point, you know, where it's largely centered around your physique at the end of the day. So can't let yourself
Yeah.
get
I
too out
mean,
of shape and too fluffy, I guess.
that's the thing, you know, I feel as an influencer, I need to live and breathe. You know, it needs to be incorporated as part of my lifestyle so that I can set as best an example and that people take to the advice that I'm putting out as well. You know, when getting onto TikTok, I witnessed a lot of influencers or you know a lot of creators that would sit in these oversized hoodies, which I mean, it's apparent they haven't stepped a foot in the gym in quite some time, and they were trying to, you know, they were trying to take on and challenge ideas about, you know, training. But obviously, if you look the part, people relate a lot better to the message that you are giving out.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Circling. So the Olympia, I didn't know you had aspirations to actually make it all the way to that stage. So that's cool to hear if that ends up happening. Obviously, you know, we're all gonna be super excited to be rooting for you. But what were your thoughts on the recent one on the placings and whatnot? Did you watch it?
I did. You know, for me, Derek, just to answer that, I just want to digress a little, just to give you a little bit, you know, more insight as to my perception of physiques and bodybuilding itself. You know, I mean, I grew up and we had these action figures. I mean, there was prominent action figures or superheroes, the likes of He-Man and the Hulk, and they were all these abnormally large figures,
Yeah.
which is generally associated with, you know, power, strength, and respect. And I've seen a shift in that over the years and in the younger generation. I mean, if you look at the present day superheroes, if we can just take, for example, the present day Spider-Man, and I think that that has largely influenced how we perceive or what we perceive, you know, power, strength, and you know, as a respectable person of masculinity or you know, a masculine figure. So so for me it always was bigger is better,
Yeah.
you know, and for years I just chased size and gains to be as large of a human as possible. But in the present day Olympia, I think it's the way the physiques are going, it's largely impressive, but it's not very aesthetic, you
Hmm.
know. And I think as I have matured in fitness and in bodybuilding, um, you know, I my maturity towards the 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 aesthetics, you know, my perception has changed around that. So, you know, for the first time in years, it's not just about size. It's about the symmetry and proportions and aesthetics. And so I was looking forward to. I was far more looking forward to the classic lineup
Okay.
than I was, you know, the heavyweights or the opens. Like I said, impressive. It's very impressive. I mean, the work that these guys put in, I respect. The sheer size, commendable. But I think we're straying further and further away from aesthetics here. And there was a shift. I thought there was a shift when the likes of Sean Roden had won. I think it was one of the lightest guys to win, you know, and in the last couple of years. And so I thought that there was some sort of transition that we were seeing. But thereafter, obviously, again, we just went for size, which tends to compromise condition.
Yeah.
So I don't know how long this is this you know current look is going to you know obviously attract audiences, but for me personally, like I said, just my personal outlook has changed with my maturity and understanding of the sport, and so I look back at more of the golden era physiques, and that's just what I find far more appealing.
Hmm. Would you be able to? I'm assuming like for stage weight, how far off or are you far off from staying within a weight cap for your height subsection? Like, would you ever do classic yourself? Is that something on the to-do list?
No, I for me, I've always aspired to still. I mean, it's about finding that balance of size and symmetry for myself. I mean, my last stage weight, I got on stage, which I was below weight at that point. Things didn't go exactly as planned. I was on stage at about 108 kilos.
Okay.
So, and I personally felt I lost a lot of size and volume. So anything less than that, I think would have just looked disproportionate. But looking at changing that, I shifted over to, I mean, one of the icons who I looked up to and got me into bodybuilding as an icon when I started out, and as which I drew a lot of motivation from, was the likes of Gary Stridham.
Oh yeah.
And he has, for the last 2 years, has been coaching me, and he's taught me he's helped me with that maturity, in terms of my understanding of bodybuilding and physiques as well. And I think along with with the accountability and the introduction that I've had to him, has changed my perception of bodybuilding in general.
Gary is he's South African as well.
He's South African. Yeah.
Is he local to you, or how'd you guys connect initially?
So he's in Thailand at the moment. We connect remotely via Skype or WhatsApp.
Okay.
We chat often. We actually become very good friends in the process. But it was a life-changing event for myself, having the opportunity of working with one of my biggest inspirations, and being able to gain knowledge from someone that's been in the industry. I mean, certainly a king of longevity.
Yeah.
And he's very alternative. I mean, he's now, I don't want to give his age away, you probably won't be happy with me, but he's in his early 60s. He left South Africa when he was 20. He headed to the States, and he had been competing, for the last, up until the age of 40, 45, and then had a comeback. But
Comeback in 40s, solid. Yeah, his physique is like very, very balanced. Like, it's not overblown. It's like still maintained aesthetic appeal, but had simultaneous mass. It seems like if I was to think, like, without you telling me what's a physique that sort of represents what you just elaborated on, like, that would be one that actually does come to mind. So that's awesome to hear that he's working with you directly.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a great opportunity. So for me, the ideal physique, I would like to see something, someone with the aesthetics of Chris Bumstead. I mean, I think he has an absolutely phenomenal physique, but with more size, so kind of something in between. And so, yeah, but the proportions on him are just, I mean, phenomenal.